Hi, this video is about the upcoming version 3 of Battle for Arda. More info on what that is in the description below. Of course, what you can see here is not version 3. This is version 1, a map known as Large Middle-earth, as it was made before the project received its current name. Well, it doesn't look great, does it? But this is actually an improved version of the original artwork I made, if you can call it that. Suffice to say, my graphical skills were rather abysmal. So when I started working on version 2, someone by the name of Haps offered his assistance and decided to do the artwork. The result is the map you see here and are probably familiar with. So now that I'm working on version 3, I tried contacting Haps, but I failed. I really hope he's alright, but in any case, over the past couple of months, it's become clear that he's not going to do the visual design for this version. And I decided that I had no other choice but to acquire better graphical skills and do it myself. Here is the result. Well, it's a work in progress. Settlements are missing, for example, but hopefully you get the idea. I think it turned out to be quite good if I do say so myself. It's really crazy what you're capable of when you put your mind and heart to it. You'll see more of the map as I go over some of the other changes. Let's start with some minor changes. The central wilderness is now a forest, while south and advice is a marsh. It's because if you read the Book of Unfinished Tales and then you read the appendix and the notes under the appendix, you can find some obscure references to the geography of this area. After so many years of making maps about Middle-earth, I still keep learning new facts about it. Due to broadly similar reasons, the land around the Limelight River is also a marsh. Speaking of marshes, marshes and also mountains now have a movement cost of 2. This means that, for example, this dune landing wildman, which has 2 points of movement, can't move to the methodrals, while this other one can enter, but can't cross to the other side in a single turn. I've tested this, and my experience is that most areas of conflict are more intuitive this way. The best example is probably Mordor. This change is going to make it more difficult for them to attack Gondor through the mountains, and so they will have to rely primarily on attacks from Minas Morgul and the Black Gate. Another minor change is that a few settlements that should obviously be hills will now be hills, like Minas Tirith or Durthang. Let's now have a look at the far north. Some of you have probably noticed in a previous video that there were some changes here, but I didn't talk about them because I was still considering further changes, some of which I did end up implementing. One of these is related to Dáin's Halls and its surroundings. Dáin's Halls was open to the northern wastes, but now it's sheltered by mountains from that side. The reasoning is that these territories represent frozen cold wastelands, and I want to convey that feeling by making them isolated and of little strategic significance. To the south of Dáin's Halls, new territories have been added and old ones rearranged. In earlier test versions, the entrance to Mount Gundabad had the tendency to become a choke point and funnel large stacks into a single territory. It wasn't easy to figure out an arrangement of territories that avoids that and enables interesting decisions, but I believe I settled on one that will work. Among all the changes, the one with the biggest impact is probably the rework of Lake Town and its surroundings. The Long Lake is a new water territory that embraces Esgaroth, the capital of the Northmen. The settlement itself will have the marsh territory effect, as I believe that out of all the territory effects, this one is the most appropriate for a town built on stilts in the middle of a lake. The only way for the enemy to approach the town is through the long marshes, so any attack will have to deal with movement penalties and generally difficult terrain. The Lonely Mountains and Dell are now a few territories away from Lake Town. This is basically the point of all these changes. It wasn't fun for the good players around here to have all their eggs in one basket, especially considering how vulnerable these settlements were to an attack coming from the east. Now, even if they are losing, they will be able to put up a long, drawn-out, desperate resistance against the inevitable, potentially buying time for their allies to turn the tide. Even further to the east, we have a new layout for the territories around the Iron Hills. I've experimented with quite a few different variations for this area. I won't try to explain all of my reasons, but the basic idea with the Redwater having a new crossing and stretching all the way to the Halls of Grower is to give the dwarves some much needed options to be relevant, even against the superior forces of Rune. An interesting little detail here is this forest, which is named Naldoreth on one of Tolkien's early maps of Middle-earth. It remains unnamed in his later works, but I decided that this fact wasn't going to bother me. So with that, the map is basically finished. For now, I will focus my efforts on finalizing the new combat system and generally just fixing the worst problems and getting it into a more or less playable state. I don't exactly have an unlimited amount of energy to work on this project though, so this might take a while. Till then, take care.